Raindrops, Happy New Year. Reality crime story is back. Give it up for Courtney Parker and Judge Tyranny.
Hey, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year!
How's it going, ladies?
Oh, it is going well.
Yes,
I
it is
got
the
to spend,
year of the horse.
so we're off to the races. We're
Off
off
to
to
the
the races.
races. I got reelected for a fourth term. So
Congratulations.
Congratulations. I got to spend a little time in Atlanta with my friend TG.
we, would,
Um, so
we
yeah.
missed you, Carlos.
I
Mhm.
know. Courtney texted me. She's like, "Are you going to be in Atlanta?" I'm like, "Darn it, I'm going to be out of town that week." But
Yep.
I saw the photos on y'all Instagram, and y'all both looked absolutely stunning. And
Thank
congratulations
you.
again for getting reelected.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It's
Yeah.
always a great time.
Yeah. No, that's good. So, Courtney, this is always a little bit uncomfortable when you have to talk about, news that involve your friends. What was so interesting is this very show kicked off with Portia and Simon, and I'm friends with Portia.
Yeah.
But we were able to
And
navigate
I'm
through
friends with
that.
my, no, I'm kidding. I'm not.
Well, girl, they think you are, according to the
They
comments.
think, they think I am.
Friends with anyone.
They said, Courtney, are you and Simon cousins? What's going on, baby?
I
You are.
mean,
I mean,
literally, Judge Tyranny. They thought me and Simon had a thing going on. Never met this man in my life, but
That's the beauty of this show is the fact that we get to have fun while some unfortunate things are being said about our friends. And look, friends of mine, and Courtney knows Jennifer Williams as well. Jennifer Williams and Christian Gold, obviously the world knows this. I attended their wedding. I love them. They are friends of mine who I love very
Mhm.
deeply and dearly. Unfortunately, some things have happened that we are going to talk about. And I'm also going to read some things that Jennifer posted in defense of their version of what happened. But rain drops. Okay. This episode is personal and full of layers. It involves basketball wives, royalty, Jennifer Williams, and her husband, Christian Gold. What has happened recently is Jennifer's husband failed to respond to a civil lawsuit against him, and that silence unfortunately cost him a default judgment totaling $367,000. I'm sorry, 367 $625.20. So, Courtney, what is going on with this that just broke the internet this week?
well, and what's funny is this story isn't just coming out of nowhere, right? It didn't start with a court order. It didn't start with a default judgment. It started when Jennifer, and it didn't even really start when Jennifer said, I do. This actually started years ago with a man who has quietly been moving in these circles of day trading, what people are calling like this pyramid scheme, and she has kind of been thrown into the limelight of what his core business is. Christian Gold, who is also known as Christian Walden, he's not a public figure the way that Jennifer is. He didn't come into this marriage with a reality show background, or really, from what I gathered, a very visible brand. Um, but what it's been circulating for some time has been the long string of lawsuits um, behind him being a businessman, an investor, a day trader, and just an overall financial connector. Several people have said that, they've been scammed by this man. And so, as we look at this judgment, and Judge Tyranny can just give us some insight as to what this judgment is, explaining to us kind of the facts of the law. Uh, And more importantly, as I've read what these Georgia RICO charges are, like everything associated with Georgia, whether it be music or, politics, they're throwing RICO charges away and around like freaking glitter in a strip club. I don't know, but we really want to get into the weeds of what this judgment means. Is it indicative of innocence or guilt, and just kind of some of the legalities surrounding this very public case involving someone that both Carlos and I and her fans adore, Jennifer.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, just to recap what's going on, pre 2025, this is all alleged. Plaintiffs allege that Christian solicited money for investment opportunities. Funds were allegedly collected with promises of business use, returns, or deployment into ventures. Plaintiffs claim the investments were not executed as represented and that funds were misappropriated or misused. February 21st of 2025, plaintiffs formally filed a civil lawsuit against Christian in Cobbs County, Georgia. March 4th of the same year, Christian is personally served with the lawsuit, meaning he legally receives notice and is obligated to respond, which will get the judge to inform us of the law. June 17th of 2025, plaintiffs file a motion for default judgment after Christian fails to respond properly within statutory deadlines. August 8th of 2025, Christian submits a late response but does not cure the default conditions required by the court. December 16th, 2025, court enters an order confirming default status and allows limited opportunity to correct, which does not occur. January 12th, yes, this week of 2026, the final judgment entered awarding three things: liquidated damages, treble damages under Georgia RICO, pre and post judgment interest for the total that I outlined earlier. That was over $367,000. So, Courtney, I want to ask Judge the first question, and I have you take it away. What I'm learning again, doing the show, talking to you, Judge, my friend Ebony K. Williams, I am understanding the law more and more and more. When anybody files a lawsuit against you, you have to respond by law. And if you don't respond, more than likely, or all the time, the judgment defaults back to the plaintiff. Do I have that accurate?
So before I respond, it is a new year, but same-ish. So I must give the raindrops my disclaimer. I am not giving you all legal advice. I cannot comment on an open case. And even though the judge has entered into a final order, the final order, from my understanding, was entered into yesterday, which means there are possible remedies that may still leave this case open. With all of that said, you are correct. Plain English, bottom line, you cannot ghost the court. I mean, you
Good way of
can't.
saying it, right? That's a good way of saying it.
So anyone can file a lawsuit, but you are obligated, one, to make sure that you respond. And as I have said repeatedly, I advise everyone to get a lawyer because procedurally, you must have notice, you must respond, and you must do so within the rules of the court. If you do not do that, you can end up in a situation where a default judgment is entered against you. And I want to make sure that people understand that a default judgment isn't like the judge picking sides or picking favorites or say, I believe this person. A default judgment is that the plaintiff has filed a lawsuit and the defendant did not respond in an adequate or timely manner. And because courts are designed to have a finality of a matter, once those time requirements lapse, the court is going to close the case. So it's not necessarily to say that the allegations in the original lawsuit are
Or-
true.
Got
It's
it.
just that we're not going to hear your side of the story. We, meaning the court, your side, meaning the defendant, which means that the plaintiff's side is what is on record.
Got it. So then, does that answer your question, Carlos?
No, it does. It does. Yeah, it
Yeah,
does.
because one of the things that people keep saying, especially in the comments, are if you didn't respond, just because he won, the plaintiffs won this judgment, he must be guilty. And so clarify that for us as you just already did, but that is not necessarily the case. It just means that the defendant hasn't responded or didn't respond properly or adequately to please the court.
So, again, we have procedures and rules for a reason, and you must follow those guidelines. People love saying, hey, I didn't get it. It'll just go away if I don't respond. Every time you ignore anything in a criminal or civil court, bad things happen. So it is worth noting that this is a civil RICO, not a criminal RICO. The difference is a civil RICO is prosecuted or presented, not prosecuted. Civilians can't prosecute. A civil RICO is brought forth by a plaintiff, a civilian. A criminal RICO is brought forth by a law enforcement agency.
Got it.
And so to say that someone is guilty or not guilty does not apply in a civil RICO. In a civil RICO, they're either going to be held liable or not liable. And the biggest thing I think that people don't understand, and I know you're like sprinkling it like sparkles or
Right.
confetti, but in Georgia, civil RICO is treble damages, as Carlos said earlier. And what that means is that whatever you are awarded is three times the amount. It's like catching the
Wait,
lottery.
Oh,
really?
so the amount of the $325,000, that was not the amount that initially was suit that he was sued for?
I have no idea. I don't
Okay.
respond to specific cases, but what I'll
Right.
do is give you an example and say, if you are Carlos King are awarded $100,000 under treble damages, it goes to 300,000.
Got it.
Oh.
So
Because the point of civil RICO is to compensate the plaintiff, but it is also to deter the defendant.
deter the
What?
defendant from what?
Because this is not generally going to be considered under civil RICO a misunderstanding in a business transaction. Civil
Mm,
RICO means that there is an alleged pattern of misconduct.
mm-hmm.
And that's what this is, a civil RICO.
This is
And
a,
they're alleging a pattern of misconduct.
and the court has now, through default judgment, awarded treble damages as well as fees and interest.
Got it.
Okay.
Now, what are some of the reasons that you have experienced in your career, Judge, why some people don't respond to a lawsuit? Based on your experience, do people think it's going to go away? Do they not understand the law so much? Do they oftentimes not contact an attorney? Um, are those some of the reasons that you have experienced?
And then before you answer that, can I jump in to say one of the things that you read, Carlos, stated that he did respond, um, but he had to, there was some misinformation or he had time to correct his response. Maybe
No,
something
I'll read
was,
it to you.
okay,
Yeah, so okay, so the thing is they filed it February 21st of 2025, right? He was served March 4th,
okay,
right? Between March and June, again, according to the documents, he did not respond, allegedly. June
properly.
7th, I'm reading at all because on June 17th,
Okay.
the plaintiffs filed a motion for default judgment after Christian fails to respond, yes, properly within the statutory deadline. So
Got
when
it.
I read that, I'm assuming, and Judge, you told me I got that wrong. Um, he was served March 4th, and they're saying April, May, June, 3 months later,
He
they
still had.
filed a motion for default. So that means more than likely he did not respond if they're filing for a motion for default.
And you, I mean, th- this is literally one of the reasons I love this show and coming on here,
Right.
because I think that the bottom line is the public is not aware, uneducated about the legal system, criminal or civilly,
Got it.
and a lot of times afraid of what it means anytime you have to interface with the court system,
Hmm.
which is why I believe that it is so important for us to educate them on things that happen so that default judgments are things that the public generally can avoid. And
Okay.
I mean, the list of reasons of a person why a person wouldn't respond, again, some people forget. I'm sorry, forgetting is not a legal excuse.
Hmm.
Sometimes people are afraid. Again, sorry, not a legal excuse. Sometimes people think it will simply go away if I don't respond. You know how, like on Instagram, you can go silent and nothing happens. You cannot ignore the comments. The
Right.
court is not social media.
Mm-hmm.
If you do not respond, the court will respond for you.
Got it.
And again, I said this earlier, I want to repeat it. Responding means you get to tell your story. Everyone should want the opportunity to tell their story. So that
There.
the young man that you all have mentioned, he did not get a chance to tell his story, which means the story of the plaintiff is what
Whether it's true or not.
is in the record.
Right. So a response is just that. Like, I'm gonna dummy this down for those people, sometimes like myself, that layman terms are classic. So a response is just that. It's a response. It's an opportunity for you to tell your side of the story. So it's not something that you should be afraid of. It's not something that um is saying the one person is lying and the other person is telling the truth. It's just a way for what I'm hearing from you is it's a way for the court system to determine based off of both sides what is the um circumstances to reach a resolution. And if you don't respond at all, then they only have the one side of the story to base a resolution on,
I will up the ante and say that you should be afraid of not responding.
more than
Mm.
responding. Now,
Yes.
should people be afraid of responding if they don't have legal representation?
Again, I come from a legal background. I always believe that you need legal representation simply because, as a civilian, there may be rules and procedures you are not aware of, which is why you go get an expert.
Got
You
it.
are not going to have heart problems and diagnose yourself. You're going to go see a heart doctor because they're going to know about things that you do not know. And
Got
for some reason, people look at doctors in a way where they depend on them and they like them, but look at lawyers in a way where they may have a bad reputation. But really, the lawyer's job is to tell your story and get the outcome that you want based on the facts and evidence.
got it.
It's your
Now,
spokesperson
right.
who knows the rules.
Who knows the rules of engagement? Talk to us a
Now,
little bit because what throws me, and I said it jokingly, but I'm so serious, with respect to Georgia's now my understanding of civil RICO and criminal RICO. You've explained it to us, but how does it get to this level to even be considered a civil RICO?
Well, see, again, I'm glad you asked so we can repeat it again because civil RICO is brought forth by a civilian who has had some kind of business dealing that has gone wrong, and the plaintiff believes that the defendant has an alleged pattern of misconduct.
Hmm.
So the civil RICO is really designed to discourage people from taking advantage of other people while also making sure that they get restitution.
Got it. And
Criminal RICO, whether it is state, Georgia, or federal, is going to be prosecuted in a criminal manner. And the outcome is going to be very different because you're always going to have the possibility of jail time. And
got
sometimes financial judgments feels like a sentence, but it is very different from losing your freedom.
got it. Um, Carlos, do you want to ask this question from one of the viewers in the comments about Jennifer, or should I? Like,
No, go right ahead. Because the thing
okay,
is, listen, everybody wants to know how does this impact his wife.
right.
Go ahead, Courtney. Yeah.
People are really worried about Jennifer, and even though she's not named in the lawsuit, what does proximity to a judgment like this realistically mean for one's spouse?
I think it depends.
Okay.
You know, that is a very legal answer, but it is a very true answer because
Right.
without knowing their asset or account distributions or anything like that, you have no idea how she will actually be impacted.
Okay.
But I don't believe that anyone could come to the presumption that a wife would not be impacted when her husband is going through such a severe financial matter.
Okay.
And so, if they have shared assets, if they have shared accounts, then she could possibly actually feel some blowback from this because it's really important to note that once a default judgment is ordered, and it is a court order by the judge, it now has to be enforced.
Got it.
And once you enforce a judgment, you can go and get assets, discovery on assets. You
Mhm.
can enforce liens. You can enforce judgments. So if they have joint accounts, if their marital home is in both of their names, these are things that would affect the entire household.
Got it. Now, I have another question. Carlos, I have another question. Then I have a question for you, particularly. Um, when you say it can affect the household and it can affect her, is there a way, once a judgment like this has been reached, is there a way for him to course correct? Like, can he enter? Can it be reopened?
So the short answer is he can definitely ask. So
Oh, okay.
he can ask the court. It will be up to the court to either grant it or deny it. Generally, once a court has closed the case, they are not going to reopen it unless there are extenuating circumstances. For example, I told you you have to receive notice. If for some reason he was not properly served, that is a reason to reopen the case.
Okay.
If he possibly had a lawyer who was incapacitated or didn't follow the rules of the law, he could possibly present that to the court and ask for the court to reopen his case. It has to be something that is going to be an extenuating circumstance, though. Generally, the court is not going to reopen a case that it has closed without some type of evidence suggesting that they simply were not ignored.
Right.
Got it. So I mean, the thing to note is the fact that because we have to say it obviously for legal reasons too, he wasn't found guilty of a charge, this awarded judgment is strictly because of the default of him not responding. So I wanted to make that clear too. I
But it
also
is
want to,
a court order now.
It's a
right.
court
So,
order
but let me,
now.
I
Yeah,
know,
he needs to do
but
something.
let me ask you this. Right, no, it's a court order, but technically he's not found guilty, or is he?
He is being held liable by default judgment. This is a criminal case. So criminal cases are guilty or not guilty.
Got it.
And the burden of proof is going to be on the prosecutor, and it's going to be beyond a reasonable doubt. The highest burden standard burden of proof that we have.
Okay.
Got
A
it.
civil case is going to be either you are liable or not liable. And it
Got it.
is not by, beyond a reasonable doubt. It is a preponderance of the evidence, meaning maybe or maybe not, more than likely you are guilty. It is a lower standard of the burden of proof.
And
Got
because
it.
you don't respond, because he, in this case, he didn't never respond. So it just kind of sways to the other side of liability.
The judge deemed because the rules were not followed.
Mhm.
The judge decided to enter a default judgment of liability and awarded, based on the laws in the state of Georgia, treble damages as well as fees and interest.
Got it. Because
Yeah.
this was civil RICO, and you said it was probably, it's likely three times the amount of the original um, amount that they were seeking.
That's by law, it's in the statute.
Okay. And there it shows a pattern. I want to go back to the word pattern because a lot of this we've seen play out on Basketball Wives. We've seen and heard the allegations against Jennifer's husband about, allegedly being a scammer. He's done this to multiple people. When you read the actual court order, there are a lot of allegations and other people coming forward saying that this has also happened to them. Is that part of the reason why they could establish this as a civil RICO? Because there is a said pattern, or is it just focused on the plaintiff filing this particular claim against him?
Well, based on what I heard you say, I think you would be presuming things that are not into evidence. Again, you
Okay.
have to realize that this is a default judgment. So a lawsuit was filed under the Georgia RICO, and the judge entered a order based on a default judgment. So nothing was presented in court. No one was given the opportunity to present their side, their evidence. They filed the original pleadings, and based on the lack of response thereof, there was a default judgment entered. So there's no way to properly discuss the facts of a case that never made it to the courtroom. It was by default judgment.
I want
Wow.
to
Okay.
read Jennifer Williams, his wife, did post this week an alleged text message. So I want to be able to read that. She did delete it. The blogs picked it up. The caption Jennifer says, as she posted the alleged text messages, the ringleader and husband of the witch hunt compliments yesterday, claims today. The timeline is interesting. Hashtag not here for a long time. Allegedly, these text messages are from two of the plaintiffs that sued him. So the text message reads, Christian is really a man of his word. I have been with liquid assets a few months in the account management class. He's always responsive and willing to answer any questions I have, which says a lot when someone is handling your assets. I would say I've had a 90% success rate Only wish I would have joined earlier. Excited to see what the future holds. So that was one message. And then um, the other message appears to be, again, allegedly a text message exchange between Christian and this person. Not sure who's in blue, but I'll just read it. We can decide from there because we know how iPhones work, child. It's blue and then it's not blue. Okay. So in blue, someone writes, fast money
God, it's
doesn't build.
not green.
Right. It ain't green. Okay. No Androids over here. It says, fast money doesn't build wealth. Always remember that. Wealth desires patience. I've learned that the hard way. Then the same person texts, good morning. Reach out because I need honest answers. The person responds, what's going on? The response, when's the last time Tobias gambled? The person wrote back, it's been about 3 weeks. He's borrowed money from everyone he can. He's even wrote fraud checks to himself, which resulted in my coffee shop account being shut down because he was on it. Um, the person in blue allegedly, again, it's all alleged. This too shall pass for you both. I pray for the group as a whole. I understand everyone's going through things, including myself. There's only so much that's within my control. So these are the text messages that Jennifer posted. The last one is, um, due to be honest, out of everybody, this girl set me up. I almost lost $100,000, but you're the only one that's true to your craft. And I appreciate you. Matter of fact, you are the only true, real person I know. The woman I'm married to ain't even real. He then ends it by saying, sorry, I'm even talking to you about this. I just don't have anyone else to tell my fault. So Jennifer posted those messages. They have been they have not been verified. It's all alleged. It appears that allegedly these are messages from a few of the plaintiffs, which is why she captioned it by saying, once again,
Not here for long.
not here for a long time. And then she said, um, when I say I'm blessed, I don't mean money or material things. I mean situations that were sent to destroy me didn't even touch my soul. The weapon was formed, but it did not prosper. So that had just been Jennifer's response. Christian has not responded yet. So what's next? What's next, Judge, in a case like this? Like you said earlier, um, Christian does have the authority to respond, but he would have to have a really good reason for not doing so and for them to reopen this. Is that correct?
So, again, in these kinds of cases, once a default judgment is entered, the plaintiff can now go about enforcement and collecting, which is a whole nother process, but it leads to discovery of assets, possible liens and judgments, and figuring out how to actually collect the money awarded.
Mm-hmm.
That is going to be on the plaintiff side. On the defendant side, in these types of cases, of course, they could honor the judgment,
Mhm.
contact the plaintiff, and figure out how to settle this judgment, set up some kind of plan to settle this judgment, or they could, in court, file something asking for the default judgment to be set aside based on a legal reason.
Got it.
Yeah.
If he does decide to settle, would that become public record? Would that settlement have to be entered into the courts to satisfy this judgment? What? How can that happen?
That would be between the plaintiff and the defendant. The court, unless there are new motions filed from the plaintiff or the defendant, the court is done. As far as the court is concerned, right now, this case is over. But
Okay.
again,
Mm.
there are options that also have deadlines and timelines and statutory requirements that you have to respond in a certain amount of time, even if you want to ask the court to do something else.
Got it.
So the clock is ticking.
One way or the other.
Yes. But as far as the court is concerned, this case is closed and the court will not intervene again unless there's new motions filed.
So let me ask this though. When you say now this judgment is enforceable, is it up to the plaintiff to try to get it enforced? If I am Christian and Jennifer and I'm like, you know what, this is a headache. This I don't even care about this public scrutiny. I want to settle. What assurances do I have that if I'm like, hey, I'll give you back the original amount? How how does that satisfy the judgment though? If I'm like, okay, we'll settle on this, you're not getting $367,000 from me, $100,000 from me, but I'll give you the original 100. Would that have to be in writing? Like how do they protect themselves from somebody that
Above and beyond anything, the plaintiff would have to agree.
okay,
Once you have a court order, that is the money you are owed. And you can go about collecting that as long as the money is owed.
okay,
You know, in the past, we've talked about lawsuits and being collectible. That is why people have to make sure that when they file lawsuits, they're actually going to be able to collect their judgments. And this goes back to if you are in a marital relationship and there is a default judgment against one party, your spouse could pay for that default judgment because a lien can be placed on any property that has your name on it. So if it's joint property, the lien can be placed on there. Monies can be collected from any accounts. If it's a joint account, of course, that is going to affect both parties. Again, and you have to open up your assets to the plaintiffs so that they can figure out how to collect this judgment if you do not just simply pay it.
Raindrops, thank y'all for coming back to see us. We'll have another episode for you guys the week after next. But Courtney and Judge Tyranny, thank you for another insightful
Thank you.
episode
Thank you. And I just want
as
to say one
well.
more time,
Yes.
cannot ghost the court. I feel like that's something the raindrops can remember. You cannot ghost the court. Okay? Lawyer, lawyer, lawyer. Respond, respond, respond. If you heard nothing else today, hear those things. Whether it is a criminal or civil court, you cannot ghost the court. Because if you ignore a criminal court, we issue a warrant for your arrest and you end up in custody. If you ignore a civil court, you end up with a default judgment without being able to tell your story. No ghosting, guys.
Is there a timeline in which they must respond?
There are always deadlines, but they vary based on the jurisdiction that you're in, which
Got
is
it. Okay.
why you want someone who knows the rules, a lawyer.
Okay.
got it.
All right, Raindrop, y'all heard that loud and clear. We will see you on the next one.
Bye.